Market's at 289 again. Yesterday, we did flush down right on the open. Failed at 290. We got the morning low again, came right back up to 290. So buyers are still really in complete control. I think that some of the hard selling, did echo. Unless I get some feedback from other people, that's the case. I'm just going to keep on going. So it's always good to check your individual settings. The buyers in control. We had some tech selling yesterday. China's weak again. We're seeing BABA gap down. As I mentioned yesterday, there's going to be light news flow, at least for the next few weeks. But the good news is the pot stocks that started to go crazy while I was on vacation have gone completely parabolic. And either today or tomorrow, you'll probably see some sort of selling pressure. And so that's a good area to look at. And I'll talk about a couple of those names. We'll talk about BABA, which is back down to where it had a huge bounce from before I left for vacation. And then on the market side, if we take out yesterday's low, it was kind of where this up move, it's where this gap was a couple Mondays ago. The logical spot is for the gap fill. So that would be here. Let's take a look at the cues. Not really seeing much there. It touched yesterday morning when the tech was getting sold pretty hard. Came back to where the up move started from early last week. IWM. It flashed down, and the midday low was the low from, looks like early last week. This 171.30 is kind of interesting. We had failed there a couple of times. Then we started to hold here on the 24th. Retest on the 28th. Retest yesterday. So we've now spent 7 days above 171.30. Maybe a couple more days of consolidation. We'll see which way we break here. All right, SGMO. It is down a couple bucks. Looks like they ran it up in front of this release for their drug trial. All right, so in the spring it was mid-20s. Just trying to see. Okay, so to get the low here, it started to hold above, big bounce. Normally trades 2.5 million shares. It's done about 500,000. Looks like the people buying the last couple of days are really caught here. So it's started at 17. Then 2 days ago it was 17.5 to 18 they were buying. Then yesterday 18 to 19. So they really wanted to punish those people. Here. So quite a bit already in the pre-market. So 16 is what I think I had the first support on the sheet, but it's in the pre-market quite a bit at 16.50 twice already. What the fuck is going on? Right, I'm going to move on to TLRY. So TLRY, here's what it's done the last week or so. It broke out from 40, topped out, looks like at around 57 and a half, 57. So buyers are in complete control. It's just really a question of this parabolic move. So it's getting steeper, it's getting steeper, steeper. So I'm pretty good in terms of not getting involved. And generally in these situations, if I'm around, I'm looking for the long from the base, like CGC at that 30 area. Then once it gets overextended, I'll start to look for a parabolic up move, but not really risk, not willing to risk as much, nearly as much on the short side as the long side. But the 60 now to 80, mid 80s, you know, maybe it spikes up right on the, puts its high on the open somewhere in the high 80s. And I would think either today or tomorrow, you'll get a print down here in the mid 70s. And then you'll kind of see. It's like you don't know if this will lead to a lower high and then it'll go down to $65 or something like that. But either today or tomorrow, it's going to top out. So I located shares for today. And so I started just with a few shares. So far pre-market high 85.70, lower high here 84.50. So if it goes vertical on the open, what you want to see is it then get down below 85 and then take out this pre-market support. And then you play it down to like 80 and then kind of go from there. But I think at some point in the next 2 days, it'll be in the mid 70s, most likely, just based on how out of hand this has gotten. So that's that. The next one is BABA, which is a complete, actually, should we take a look at CGC as well? So CGC, this is the one that had gapped up to 37 right before I left for vacation on the multi-billion-dollar investment. And I was here, and it pulled down, and we were, you know, we had two levels to look at buying it. I think it was 30 and 32.60. The first level failed, second level worked. And you had time over the next few days to get involved. Eventually got above, similar to TLRY, got above 40, and then buyers have been in control ever since. I just think TLRY is more out of control, so that's why I like it a little bit more on the short side. But we definitely can look at this as well. If we look at it since yesterday, it broke out from 48, which had been the prior high, and pulled back and supported it midday before going up. Maybe have some alerts up here like 57, 58, kind of see if it tops out there, and we'll go from there. So Krone is the same. Krone is the same sector as these guys as well. This would be like, you know, kind of the easier, lower price stock to play. It's also fundamentally probably less real. So if those start to get hammered, especially TLRY, Krone will probably come in as well, and I think people will be looking at $10 and $11 as kind of downside targets on this one. And you want to see it fail, like at the prior high. You know, 14 had already failed in the pre-market. You don't want to see it above 14, and then starts to hold below 1270, let's call it. And then these would be the downside targets. Less risky than the other two. All right, BABA. So BABA was, we had this right before I left for vacation as 166 support. It bounced from there. Good good numbers, got to the mid 180s. It's just coming off with the Chinese market. If you go on the longer term, this is really important support. So, and this is a market leader, obviously, largest company in China. So, last couple of times it came down here, I thought maybe it would bust through. It would do the test of 160, and that would be the longer term bottom. So, but it has worked. It bounced almost $20 from there a couple weeks ago. We want to continue to give it the benefit of the doubt as long as it's above 185 and 165. So on the open, a flush into the 167 area, I'd start buying. And 166, be more aggressive. Ideally, what you'd like to see is it close above 172 to be comfortable that the buyer is starting to take a little bit of control again. So you can actually see after the earnings, it came down to 172, closed there, and it was back above 180, I guess, a couple of days later. So a lot of stuff late August. AMD, this is a very different stock. This is buyers in complete control. So this one ran up. It's a good example of buyers in control, ran up a bunch a couple weeks ago, pulled in, gave you a chance to get back in between 24 and 25 for the move to 30. And now looks like we're going to touch 30 today. And we'll see. That's a big psychological level. Certainly as long as it's above 28, you want to be looking at it on the long side. So far, 29 into 29 and a half, they've sold it in the pre-market, and they're buying 29.10. Even if it flushed down right on the open into like here, I'd be looking at buying it against 28.80. You buy it into here, you want to see it get back above 29, hold above there, and then take out the pre-market high. So that's AMD. Nike didn't really do that much yesterday. I think we had 81 as our spot to look for it to fail. It did spike there right on the open. And then the rest of the day, it didn't do much. It made a couple lower highs, and then they started to hold, sell it at 80, but it never broke down. The pre-market looks like it was down at yesterday's low again. I would say as long as it's holding below 80, if you want to be short it, that's fine. The real fun would begin is if it got below 79, though, in terms of panic. And I would say a close above 81, buyers back in control, people blowing off this news, not really that concerned about some people in the US not buying Nike because of their ad campaign. And then CONN, this one had run up a ton into earnings. We know initially it had the positive reaction to earnings. They sold it hard right on the open into 36. It bounced at $1.50 for closing week, but it's basically right back to where, similar to other retail names, I guess we can compare it to a similar company to Best Buy. But we've seen this a lot the last few quarters in these retail names that are doing well. Sometimes they run up a little bit too much ahead of earnings, they get hit, and then they bounce right back. Here's what Best Buy did. This was while I was on vacation. So Best Buy had run up in front of earnings from the mid-70s up to the low 80s. They hammered it back down to the mid-70s again, and you can see it's crawling its way back up to $80. So I would expect the same thing from Con. It's a little bit more of a dangerous stock, so maybe it comes off another $1 or so, $1.50. And then works its way back up to the high 30s over the next week or two, maybe even 40. Actually, I guess this would be logical. This is $38. So long in here, and then it's kind of see it works its way back to 36, works its way back to 38. That would be the play that I'd be looking for from a longer term perspective. Check back in with TLRY. And then just remember on these, this whole pot stock craze is, retail people are getting involved. It's They see it in the US and Canada. It's a big deal. What's going to eventually happen is there's going to be a lot more speculative names that move, which will be good from us from a short-term trading perspective. And then eventually there'll be some winners. There'll be like 2, 3, 4 winners, and those will be good stocks. As long as we see legalization across the US in the next year or so, there'll be a few good trading stocks that should be around for a while. But right now it's in kind of the euphoria stage. You see this in a lot of new sectors. We saw this, good example comparison would be solar. We saw that back in, God, when did that start? Like 2004, 2005. There was euphoria, and, FSLR and a bunch of the other SPWR, these names, and they shot up to levels, and they came off 50, 60%. And eventually they were good for a number of years before some of them went out of business, and some of them are still around. From a trading perspective, it's good for us that there's a new sector with new companies coming along. Stuff's going to be in play. You just don't want to they're parabolic now, and people are euphoric and all that. And so they're going to come in, and there'll be some money there. But just understand it's riskier. It's definitely riskier on the short side.